Hello, friends. Welcome back to campus here at Trade Show University. So excited to have you here today with me. As always, I honor your time. I know that you could be spending time doing anything, and you're here listening to me and getting better about trade shows and the events that you spend so much time, money, and resources to get better at. And we're going to this is going to be a blast for me. I know it will be for you as well, as we have a guest today talking about stories and about event experiences. And just listen to this bio. As I read his bio, you were just going to be instantly excited about listening to the rest of this conversation. I have on today Alan Bruun. Alan is currently the Director of Creative Services for Production Resource Group's Corporate Events Division. An IAAPA Brass Ring and Thea Award winner, he has over 20 years' experience creating shows and events for Disney Parks, Live Entertainment, and Disney Event Group throughout North America, Europe, and Asia. Alan has also served as artistic and producing director for 5 theater and opera companies. Alan, it is a pleasure to have you here. Welcome to Trade Show University.
It is my pleasure to be with you, Jim.
Oh my goodness. I am my whole family were huge Disney fanatics, theater fanatics, and so just really excited to dive into your experience and what you've seen over the years and what you're, I guess more importantly, what are we seeing now? So how do you see what has happened and how the and exhibit experience really is evolving?
Well, we constantly over the last year or so use this phrase over and over again: post-pandemic, post-pandemic,
Yes.
post-pandemic. Oh, we're coming out of the pandemic, and who are we now? But I think there's a lot of truth to that. I think that a lot of organizations, associations, corporations are taking a look at how they do events, how they do trade shows, and saying, are we just going through the motions, or are we just checking the boxes? Or is there a better, or more specifically, a more effective way of doing this? We've learned a lot because of the tools that we've been forced to use over the
Mm,
past couple of years.
yeah.
And we've learned a lot by doing hybrid events, by having to step away from human to human touch and contact. And I think, those tools have been forced into our hands, and we've had to learn how to use them as we go. It's not like we were able to slowly but surely figure out this process. So now we have the opportunity to say, okay, we have this new skill set and tool set at our disposal. How do we then take that and utilize that within the context of the event process and the show process that we're familiar with? And then how do we reimagine the whole thing? My feeling is that event structure, corporate event structure, has not changed in quite some time. The model that I always think of is school, because you've got a general session, which is basically a lecture hall.
Hmm.
You've got breakouts, which are basically classrooms, and you have the exhibit hall, which is basically your science fair. Um,
Yes.
And so we've based all of this on a very top-down approach that says, we, the people throwing the event, have the information. You, the people attending the event, are here to receive the information. So it's a one-way trip, and that's the way it's been
Mm.
for a long time. I think what we're seeing as we get into a more digital age, as we get into new generations of people getting involved, more of a sense of interaction rather than one-way action. The one of the projects that I worked on very recently was with Merritt's Corporation, basically imagining what an event would look like in 5 years
Mm.
and trying to experiment with that. And one of the things that we talked about the most was the idea that initially events have been for the attendee. Now we're starting to get into a world where the events happen with the attendees, with their buy-in, with their participation, with their input. And ultimately, we thought, well, are we going to end up with events that actually are put on by the attendees so that it's a fully interactive world in which we're all able to share information in both directions, learn together, and come up with unexpected solutions rather than predetermined ones.
Wow. You're giving me an entirely new perspective on what events could be. When you start talking about going from a one-way trip to a, you know, interaction going both ways, going things from for attendees to with attendees, which is I think we're really getting immersed into that now, but by attendees, that is a whole new perspective and a whole new way to think about it. And I know that I've been at shows before where I went there with high expectations of I'm going to from a business standpoint, I'm going to get this, I'm going to make this connection, I'm going to do this, and I leave going that was just a waste of my time. It was not set up correctly, or it was like I don't know if my expectations were too high, but when you start talking about getting the attendees involved, where they become part of planning, that is a whole new mindset and really is takes the show planners to task.
Oh yeah. Well, you just can't go, you can't go about it in a box checking manner. You have to go about it and say, well, what are we actually trying to accomplish here? Because you're right. I think a lot of people go to events and it's like, oh, this is great. I get to come to an interesting place. I get to get some information, which I may or may not retain. And I get to connect with some buddies I haven't seen in a while. And that's kind of it. And if you come down to Orlando, then you can go to Disney World too.
Yeah.
But what I hear more and more as we're looking at projects coming in and proposals coming into PRG, networking is becoming more and more important, I think, in events. I hear it over and over again. We need to have space and time for networking. And I think it's challenging for a lot of event planners who just want to shove as much, you know, information in as possible and not realize that people need the opportunity to digest that information. And one of the best ways of digesting the information is to have conversations about it.
Mm-hmm.
So having not just time but space to truly create networking opportunities, not just with your buddies but with people you don't know,
Yes.
in order to get that surprise, maybe disruptive element in your thinking that really takes you to the next level. Because everybody wants their event to fire people up and give people a strong call to action. What is it? What is it you want to walk away from the event carrying with you back into your world? Like a new seed that you're going to go plant somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And that takes doing. That takes thought up front, and it also takes risk because it's not about just giving people a pat general session, even a wonderful rah-rah motivational keynote speaker.
Mm-hmm.
We know what all of those boxes are, but what happens in between the boxes, the networking piece,
Mm-hmm.
is where I think events and certainly trade shows are going to become more and more powerful and more and more meaningful and valuable for the attendees.
I agree with you 1,000%. As you were talking, an image of a buffet came up in my mind, and I think about as an attendee, I'm going to a trade show, almost like I'm going to a buffet, and sometimes all the food at the buffet is not appealing. It's not what I want, and then I leave, and and almost like we want to take it from, as a show planner, we're not just putting out in a buffet. We're interacting with our attendees ahead of time, finding out what foods do you like, and so we can get the right ingredients. And then, by the way, we're going to have you come in and we're going to create this feast together, and we're going to allow you to interact with the other chefs and the other attendees, and creating new ways for people to interact with each other, because attendees need to interact with each other because they have common goals and common dreams and all that, and the exhibitors need to interact with each other, and it's I'm getting excited so about possibilities, but it's taking a new mindset. It's taking a whole new way of looking at it. And I love that you're putting in the networking part of it is really being highlighted.
Well, I think, anytime that you use a food as a metaphor, you have me. But I think it's an excellent metaphor for this. There's a couple of aspects to it. The buffet model, I think, is a really, really good one. Here we've got all of this information for you, but it's all like steam table variety. And it's like, oh, well, that sort of tastes like eggs Benedict, but it's been sitting on the table for 30 minutes. And sometimes ideas can be like that too. So number one, you sort of have to elevate your game and say, no, we're not going to do a buffet. We're going to do a tasting menu. And we're going to give you little amuse bouches that are just going to like blow your mind, because we're going to put this with that in a way that you never thought we would. And then to add the next layer, which is you're going to make it, you're going to decide what goes with what, and you're going to try stuff out. And as you try stuff out, you're going to talk about it. And as you talk about it, you're going to come up with your own ideas. You're going to come up with things that you are dying to share with other people. And all of a sudden, it has life, it has energy, it has meaning and value. It's not just, the answers in the back of the book.
Yeah. I love that. Yes, the answer is in the back of the book. If we think about the shifting and talking to right now, talking to a show planner, event planners, how do you maximize the impact of this kind of thinking? And
Oh,
what would you say to your show planners?
first and foremost, and this is I talk about this all the time with the team here at PRG. We have to get to know our clients. We have to get to know them. We have to get to know who they are. We have to get to know what their environment is like. We have to, are they having a good year? Are they having a bad year? What are their demographics? What is driving them? Are they challenged by something, or are they just, riding a high? Who are you? Where are you? And then ultimately, what do you want to get out of this? Or what do you think you want to get out of it? And our job really isn't just to listen and write down notes and go, oh, they said they wanted meat and potatoes, so we better give them meat and potatoes.
Mm-hmm.
No, we need to say, okay, they're asking for meat and potatoes. So what they want is security and comfort. How
Mm-hmm.
can we give them security and comfort without necessarily giving them meat and potatoes? Because then we're spinning it up a little bit and not just providing them what they've asked for, but really listening deeply to what they're saying and interpreting it. That's our job. And when I think of our team, at PRG Solution Studio, that's really our job, is to interpret. And we interpret from a creative standpoint, we interpret from a technical standpoint, and ultimately from a production standpoint, and put all of that together in a way that meets a deep need that's not just about checking the boxes on the equipment list.
Yes, absolutely. So getting to know your clients, and this is great advice for every business to take it at whatever level they need to take this at, but get to know your clients, listen deeply to them and what their needs are, what their goals are, and then interpret it. Interpret it. Read between the lines a little bit and get creative with how can we elevate this. It just sounds like what you are doing. It's just amazing.
I mean,
Let's
that's the goal. Yeah, is to because sometimes, and we know this, we've sometimes our clients aren't the best at being able to truly be able to articulate what their deep need is,
Hmm.
you know. And I use meat and potatoes again. We're talking food as an example of that's a clue. That's not an end. That's a clue. And if I can take that clue and I can interpret it and say, then what I want to give you is this, then you're receiving it in a way you don't expect, which allows you to open yourself to it more.
Creating those wow moments, those things that over a multi-day show, they're going to remember a couple things that just make such an impact, and those are things that they don't experience every day.
Right.
That's
I'll give you another example.
yeah, please.
And one, you know, think about circus, then think about Cirque du Soleil.
Oh, okay.
There is a group that took what we know of circus, and what was circus at that time? Act, 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 act.
Hmm.
So you're buying a series of goods. Cirque du Soleil said, no, we're going to create a narrative. It may be a narrative that you can't decipher because it's kind of a dream, but
Hmm.
there's definitely a connection, a through line that they work through the entire show. And they reinvent every single piece of it, and they use every visual, musical, physical element at their disposal to do something that you've seen before in a way you've never seen it before. That's interpretation, taking circus and reinventing it as Cirque.
Okay, everyone, rewind that, listen to that one more time, and then think about your business. Think about your industry, your upcoming event, and how can you recreate, especially if you're a show planner. I've my background's in B2B, so I've done these huge industry shows for decades now, and some of them are the same over and over and over, and it's like a family reunion. You get together with the same people, and but you experience the same thing. And like you said at the beginning, the event structure hasn't really changed all that much over the years. It's pretty much the same. But now, what can we do? What can we do differently that what can we do differently and really rethinking it, and think about that circus to Cirque du Soleil. That's just absolutely brilliant analogy there. And how we create that moments, those moments that not only are going to create wow moments for our attendees and our exhibitors and our sponsors, but elevate the interaction and elevate the results and the new connections that people have made and the new opportunities that have come out of it. Just so good. So tell us a little bit about, when you think about, let me ask the same question again about maximizing impact, but now if talk to an exhibitor, and how do they do that? Is it the same, going through the same process, or is it something a little bit different?
Well, the exhibit hall is a fascinating place, and it's already gone through some changes. I mean, we're seeing changes happening on the exhibit hall with more. It feels like more lecture demonstrations, more interaction. I've places where there are definitely like hub lounges for people to get together and network. It's not just a carny where it's
Hmm.
booth after booth after booth after booth with everybody shilling their stuff. I mean, there's still plenty of that.
Yeah.
But the question in my mind then is how, and this is a hard one, how do you create on the exhibit floor a combined aesthetic or a combined intention or objective? Can we take a look at an exhibit hall that's connected to an event, that's connected then to a themed event that has specific messages that they're trying to get, that are trying to be at the forefront? How can exhibitors use that to modify and interpret their response to it, as opposed to merely being the sort of in the front of my product. How is my
Mm.
product a part of the whole story? How is my product the hero of the story, or the sidekick that saves the day at the end? You know, how can I tie what I do to the bigger picture? And one of the things that, as I was thinking about this in advance of talking to you, right now it feels to me, and is that a lot of what happens in the exhibit world is a competition for attention. Everybody is trying to get you to stop and talk to them, and so it's about competing. Um, is there a way? And I don't have the answer to this, but I'm just raised the question: is there a way to also create a complementary experience that is about how all of these pieces fit together, how everybody fits into the the mission of the whole? Because ultimately, everybody's there with a mission to make their business or their world better. It's kind of why we do all of this, is in the hopes that we will make the world a better place through what we bring in our business, through what we bring through our relationships. So how can that be a combined objective within the context of the exhibit floor? And I think this is a question too for those people who are, who produce exhibits
Mm-hmm.
and produce trade shows. How can an overall theme be all embracing as opposed to all competing? Not, of course, that you know my widget is better than your widget, but at the same time, both of our widgets are trying to do something great. So,
Absolutely.
so it's, I think, I think the the trade show structure, the exhibit hall structure has undergone some transformation. I think there's a lot of opportunity, a lot of wonderful opportunity to find what is the new norm from that
Mhm.
standpoint. And I don't think it's let's all go home and get on the web, because it is, it's about that wonderful essence, which is time, that we are giving our time to one another and sharing something that we believe is valuable.
This is just wonderful. I love that idea of turning it from a competition, which is truly what it is. I'm competing for your attention, even though I might not be competing directly in the business space with the booth next to me. We might both sell to you for various reasons, but I'm competing for your eyeballs and your attention and your time coming down. So there's a challenge right there to all the show planners and organizers there. And if you're a corporate event organizer, how do you transform it so that it is more collaborative? It is creating new opportunities by bringing companies together that might not normally be together. And you're taking down the little pipe and drape in between, and you're creating this open area. Think Cirque du Soleil. It is, if anyone has been to a du Soleil show, it's completely immersive, and it's something like you've never experienced in your life, and you can't even describe it to people. It's one of those things you just have to be there. But what can we do? Yeah.
Oh, I love what you said though about what if we what if we just took down all the pipe and drape?
Yeah.
What if the distinctions, those boxes that get taped on the floor, that we then, put our stuff inside and we don't, and that's our world. What if we took all that away? What would that look like? What if it was more like a Renaissance fair, where you're walking through having all of these extraordinary experiences. And we talk a lot, and people talk. endlessly these days about the experience economy, and that we're moving from event to experience, and I think that's all true. And I think one of the great things about experiences is you have to think of everything. You have to think about how it smells. You have to think about what the sounds are. You have to think about what are the all of the ways that we can impact an individual or a group and give them an emotional reaction, because ultimately what sells? Emotion.
Yes. You get people to feel and they remember. They
And they
remember.
remember.
And that's what we want. When we're going to a show with 500 or 1,000 or even 50 exhibitors, as an attendee, what do I remember? I remember the unique people or experiences or maybe we remember the unique food, or that I got the most amazing latte made for me right at someone's booth. And then you ask, well, what was the booth? Well, I can't remember with the booth, but I got the latte. So it's a challenge all the way around, from the show planners all the way down to the exhibitors, to create that experience and that environment for the attendees so that it will be memorable, and it's something that they go back and they tell colleagues, they tell friends about, and they want to come back again. Wow, this has just this has been, I could talk to you all day long about this kind of stuff. This is just amazing. I want to touch on one more thing, and
Yeah.
that is story. You mentioned story a few times. Why is story so important in the success of our events?
I think that giving people a flow, giving them a hero, giving them something to follow, something, and particularly, as we talk about more experiential stuff, casting them in a role. You are here to do this. You are here to achieve this. It's why things like escape rooms have come into such great play and are actually a wonderful thing to have as a part of an event,
Yeah.
because they cast you in a role. They say you are here for a specific purpose, and our goal is to get you from point A to point B, not just to fill you full of stuff, but to set you on a journey. A journey is where we learn. A journey is where we experience. A journey is where we feel. And a journey takes us into a deeper relationship with a company, with a product, with a clientele, and with ourselves. So that's why I think story is tremendously important. It's like, you can, a brand logo is like a photograph, and there it is. I know what the brand is. It's in front of me. You can, if you end with that at an event, then you've got 3 days of nothing after you've seen the brand.
Hmm.
But if you say, okay, here's our brand, here's a challenge to our brand, here's how our brand overcame that challenge, here's how we're going to celebrate the fact that our brand overcame that challenge, and now there's another challenge in front of it. Now we're engaged.
Yeah.
Now there's something that we say, oh, I need to help this brand. I need to help. I need to help. I need to help us all win. I need to be a part of this. And we have an emotional connection. We have a goal, and we have a path. And that's much more impactful, I think, in the long run than getting a piece of information, because you're saying, this is how to use it. This is where to go with it. This is how it fits when we see our lives as journeys.
Mm-hmm.
And so to give us, and that's why we love stories and have listened to stories since the world began, because stories remind us of our own journey. And so they have meaning to us from beginning to end. And they give us goals, and they give us purpose. And that's a heck of a lot to get out of an event, is to come out with a purpose.
Wow. Yes. If I came out with a purpose, that would be the best event I've ever been to. And Alan, you have just taken us all on a journey. And this has been probably one of the most fun and memorable conversations I've ever had. This has just been just amazing, and I thank you for that and for taking us all on this journey of and people share this episode with someone who needs to hear it, who needs to get their creative wheels spinning and thinking differently. Alan, as we wrap up here, what would be if take all the stuff that we talked about, what would be like one or two key things you definitely want people to take away?
Well, I'll go back to one of the things we said right at the beginning, and that is, you know, get to know your client, get to know your partners, get to know, and if it's you, then have a deep conversation about what you truly want and what it is you want to achieve. And I would be amiss if I didn't then say, and then come and talk to us at PRG Solution Studio, and we will help you interpret your goals in a way that your attendees will get and keep. It's about, I hate to say it because it's such a cliche, but it's the experience. It's about creating experience. Experiences create transformations. Transformations create change. And ultimately, what we want is change.
Well, I know that you at PRG, you guys do amazing, amazing work. So if someone's sitting here go, I need to reach out to Alan, what's the best way for them to connect with you?
I am at alan.bruun@prg.com. Like I said, I'm the director of creative services for our division, which is called Solution Studio, which is there really to provide service to any and all types of events to help you achieve your objective in a customized and personalized way.
Awesome. And I will drop Alan's email into the show notes. So click on that show notes button and you'll be able to click on it from there. And wow, Alan, I can't thank you enough. This has just been an amazing time that has flown by, and I've been smiling from ear to ear since we started talking. So, thank you so much for taking the time
Oh, it's
to
been a
share
great
your
pleasure,
wisdom.
Jim.
And everyone, continue to come back, re-listen to these, go dive into more episodes on some of the other amazing interviews that we've done, and share this with others. And don't forget to subscribe so you keep coming back here. Don't miss an episode right here on campus at Trade Show University.